Time now for the business news with Nicholas Poynton. Okay, Nicholas, let's start with Kiwi Bank. So full year financial results, what impact did the pandemic have?
Well, I think the fact that the bank has effectively set aside half of its profit, about $51 million, to cover bad debts on its books sort of really says it all, really. The bank is really erring on the side of caution. It says that to date its losses have been relatively low, but it is expecting sort of an uptick on people defaulting on their debt when the worst effects of the pandemic begin to set in. So the bank's full year profit for the year was $57 million. Compare that with last year. They had a nice profit of about $108 million. It says trading has been a little bit affected by some increased costs. They've sort of looked to invest in growth and improving sort of customer outcomes and the like. But their profits probably haven't also been helped too much by some of these OCR measures taken by the Reserve Bank, because as interest rates drop, it effectively kind of cuts into the rates, the margins for these retail banks. But there are some positive signs for the bank. Chief among them is the fact that their lending growth was actually up 9% on last year. And if you compare that with sort of the average growth rate across all the other retail banks, which is at 5%, it's sort of about a 4-point increase, which is, quite a difference. But the million-dollar question is whether or not this lending will continue throughout the current financial year, because that's something that the Reserve Bank has signalled to the retail banks. They want them to all keep their foot on the gas. They say, look, we've pulled out all the tools in our toolbox to, keep interest rates low to support the economy, but it's really on you guys to, keep the work up and keep lending. So there'll be a lot of attention really paid to this bank and many other banks' sort of quarterly updates to see how is lending tracking on since that we first saw signs of the pandemic in early March.
And that's scary to think they've put aside such a significant amount of money to cover off bad debt.
It is a bit of an increase. It's a substantial increase on last year by about $12 million. ANZ, they put out their third quarter results not too long ago. They also reported a significant increase, and they call them impairment costs, money that they've set aside for this. But it is, in a way, it isn't too surprising, really. No. You would expect to see more defaults across the board.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's now move on to this Taranaki-based energy company who's got a partnership going on with a hydrogen vehicle company, and they're going to bring in trucks to New Zealand. So what are the details?
Yeah, this is pretty exciting stuff. This is Henderson Energy, and they've partnered with this US-based hydrogen vehicle manufacturer called Henderson Motors, and the plan is to bring hydrogen-powered trucks, so think hydrogen fuel cells, to New Zealand next year. The first batch, they say they're going to bring about 20 over, hopefully, and then they'll do some tests, make sure that they're fit for purpose. For New Zealand's got quite a demanding road network, as you can probably imagine. But by 2026, they expect to have 1,500 of these trucks in New Zealand operating. And this is some really big news for Henderson Energy, because hydrogen energy, that's something that they've been really big on for several years now. And one of the things that they've said that they've wanted to do is bring hydrogen vehicles to New Zealand. Back in 2018, they said that by 2020 would have these vehicles. Well, that hasn't actually materialised, so it will be interesting to see if they can really pull this off next year. And I think one of the really exciting things is the fact that, look, this could be a really big step towards significantly decarbonising our freight fleet. But a lot of work needs to happen before we see those first trucks come to New Zealand. The fact is that currently there are no hydrogen filling stations in New Zealand. So Henderson, they say their first step is that they're going to build 4 filling stations. They're going to pair up with Waitomo, the fuel retailer, to do that. By 2022, they'll have another 4, so they'll bring the total to 8. And they say that if they hit that target of 8, they will be able to cover 95% of the freight routes in New Zealand, which is a goal that they're going to have to hit if they want to sort of really challenge the diesel fuel trucks in the market. These trucks, though, they are a little bit more expensive than their diesel counterparts. When I say a little bit, maybe quite a bit, about 25 to 30% more expensive. Right, okay. Henderson says if they're going to really reduce those costs, it will come down to an economy of scale. They'll need to have more trucks be bringing more trucks in, and they're also going to have to really ramp up the production of hydrogen to sort of help really pull those costs down. At the moment, these trucks, when they're brought over, they've had a bit of a partnership with the TR Group, which is a big logistics company. They're going to take ownership of those first 20 trucks, and then they will on-lease them to sort of these trucking operators. So look, all in all, they say 2022. That is the date when we will start to see those first commercial use of these hydrogen-powered trucks on New Zealand roads. So hopefully in 2 years' time we'll be here to talk about it. Who knows?
Interesting. Hey, so let's go to the markets today and what happened there. I'm taking it that it was uninterrupted trading today.
Yeah, we managed. The NZX has held up. Look, it has been patchy here and there, but we haven't seen any significant outages. So, trading has continued. The NZX, though, today has actually really fallen over the course of the day. It's down by 1.21%, which is about 144 points to 11,793. But that's because our NZX, our share market, follows the ASX, which has actually fallen to about a 4-week low. And that's just a lot of investors now are waiting to see what sort of actions the Australian Central Bank is going to take over there. Our dollar is up by a third to 67.6 US cents. We're steady at 91.3 Australian and 50.4 British pence. And before I forget, gold is up a touch for the day at $1,986 US an ounce.
Thanks, Nicholas. Nicholas Poynton with our business update.